Welcome back, everyone, to another in-depth explainer. Today, we're diving into what is honestly one of the most unbelievable, meteoric rises in modern football history. We're unpacking the evolution of Pau Cubarsí. You probably saw he recently grabbed the number 3 spot on the prestigious NXGN 50 2026 list, and honestly, he has completely rewired how we think about the modern center back. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how this young talent achieved the impossible, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, share this with your fellow football nerds, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Seriously, your support is literally what allows us to keep making these detailed, structured, tactical explainers. We absolutely love geeking out over the data and tactics with you guys, so hitting subscribe really means the world to us. Okay, let's get into it.
So, here's the big question we're answering today. How on earth did a teenager become the undisputed brains behind the defense for both Barcelona and the Spanish national team? I mean, it completely defies logic, right? Center backs just aren't supposed to look this composed at his age. He's out there receiving the ball under crazy pressure and picking out passes like the game is played in slow motion.
Section 1. La Masia's new gem, the rise of Cubarsí.
To really grasp this, you've got to look at how explosive his ascension has been, totally shaped by his foundational La Masia roots. Check this out. January 2024, he makes his first team debut in the Copa del Rey. Just 2 months later, boom, he's the MVP in a Champions League knockout game against Napoli. By July, he's anchoring Spain to an Olympic gold. And now, May 2026, he is a locked-in starter for the World Cup squad. Guys, that's a 13-month trajectory. Most pros don't hit those milestones in a 15-year career. It's insane.
Moving on to Section 2. Key first-team moments. Locking down the asset.
€500 million. Let that sink in. When Cubarsí turned 18 in early 2025, Barcelona wasted absolutely no time. They locked him down with a brand new contract featuring a staggering €500 million release clause. Word on the street was that heavy hitters like Arsenal and Manchester City were showing concrete interest, so Barca basically built a massive financial fortress to secure their defensive future.
But here's where it gets really interesting. There's a super deliberate financial strategy at play here. Cubarsí only signed until 2029, while core guys like Pedri, Gavi, and Araujo are locked in until 2030 or 2031. Why the shorter deal? Well, Cubarsí's initial wages were still scaled to his academy status. This 4-year agreement basically gives him and the club the flexibility to negotiate a massive, well-deserved salary upgrade much sooner, bringing his pay right in line with his crucial first-team status.
All right, Section 3. The defender's tactical intelligence. Deep line playmaker.
To really appreciate his genius, we have to talk about the environment he operates in. Under Hansi Flick, Barcelona shifted into a super direct, incredibly intense 4-2-3-1 system, and the hallmark of this? A ridiculously high defensive line. We are talking resting right on the halfway mark. It's built to lock opponents in their own half and choke them out with a counter press. But as you can imagine, playing that high up means the defense operates with virtually zero margin for error.
So how does Cubarsí not just survive, but actively thrive in this high-wire act? It boils down to a brilliant 3-step sequence during the build-up. First off, his scanning patterns. He maps out the pitch before the ball is anywhere near him. Second, he'll slightly open his body to intentionally bait the opponent's press, literally setting a trap. And third, the second they commit, he executes this razor-sharp line-breaking pass straight into the midfield. It is the kind of ice-cold veteran composure you'd expect from a 30-year-old, not a teenager fresh out of La Masia.
But look, no system is perfect, and we've got to look at the whole picture objectively. Because Barca plays so high, Cubarsí's main systemic limitation, which is a lack of elite recovery pace, does get exposed sometimes. If an opponent bypasses that midfield press with a well-timed long ball, he's suddenly forced into foot races. This exact physical vulnerability actually led to straight red cards for DOGSO. That's denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity in some really high-stakes Champions League games against Atletico Madrid and Benfica. If you get caught out in Flick's system, the consequences are severe.
Moving to Section 4. Statistics and passing accuracy. Grounding the hype.
Let's back up the eye test with some hard data, because his passing accuracy sits at an unbelievable 91% across his matches. Think about that. That's not just an impressive stat, it's proof of his freakish composure under intense physical pressure. In a team that strictly demands playing out from the back, no matter the risk, his ability to keep the ball is quite literally the engine running Flick's entire tactical machine.
And it doesn't stop there. What happens when the ball is in the air? He wins 80% of his aerial duels, 80%.
That is the highest win rate among all center backs across Europe's top 5 leagues. And the craziest part? He doesn't even have elite physical mass or towering height. He does it purely through incredible spatial intelligence and perfect timing, allowing him to dominate much larger strikers and completely neutralize long ball threats. His workload during that La Liga title-winning campaign was monumental. We're talking 48 matches across all competitions, logging over 2,700 minutes on the pitch. He was an absolute workhorse. And to top it all off, he even scored his memorable first senior goal, a gorgeous header right off a Rafinha corner in a super dramatic Copa del Rey clash against Atletico Madrid.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5. Spain's 2026 defensive anchor, international impact. Now, we have to give huge credit to the Spanish management team for how they handled his physical development. After becoming Spain's youngest ever defender in March 2024, the manager actually made the tough call to exclude him from the senior Euro 2024 squad, purely to prevent burnout. Instead, he goes to the Olympics and casually wins gold. That careful pacing perfectly prepped him for the biggest stage of all, culminating in his selection for the 2026 World Cup.
And that leads right into one of the most heavily debated aspects of the 2026 World Cup squad announcement. Just looking objectively at the data here, Spain's final roster features 8 players from Barcelona, including Cubarsí obviously, and for the very first time in history, 0 players from Real Madrid. While there's been plenty of public chatter about the omission of Real Madrid defenders, the manager clearly made a calculated decision to lean heavily on Barcelona's established tactical core. So, why make that choice? Well, it's because Spain effectively imports Barcelona's tactical chemistry straight onto the international stage. They play a high-pressing, possession-based system that perfectly mirrors everything taught at La Masia. By anchoring the defense with Cubarsí, Spain instantly gets systemic continuity, elite positional understanding, a guy who naturally organizes the offside trap, and ready-made backline chemistry with his club teammates.
Hansi Flick summed up the industry consensus perfectly with this quote. He said, "Don't forget Pau Cubarsí. He's still 17 years old, and he's playing like a veteran." It's just a powerful reminder of how deeply respected his maturity is by the absolute best managers in the world. He isn't just a promising kid with potential. He's actively dictating games from the backline with the poise of a guy who's been doing it for a decade.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. When you combine his flawless technique, that 91% passing accuracy, his elite tactical mastery, and the fact that he's anchoring a World Cup contender before he's even turned 20, is Pau Cubarsí destined to be the absolute greatest center back of his generation? Man, we cannot wait to see what he does at the 2026 World Cup to help answer that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.